Mr. Curtis, would you please state your full name for the record?
My name is Clinton Eugene Curtis.
And where do you reside?
Tallahassee, Florida.
And what is your profession?
I'm a computer programmer.
Would you please speak into the microphone so the audience can hear your testimony?
I'm a computer programmer.
Mr. Curtis, are there programs that can be used to secretly fix elections?
Yes.
How do you know that to be the case?
Because in October of 2000, I wrote a prototype for President Congressman Tom Feeney at the company I worked for in Oviedo, Florida, that did just that.
And when you say did just that, it would rig an election?
It would flip the vote 51-49 to whoever you wanted it to go to and whichever race you wanted to win.
And would that program that you designed be something that elections officials that might be on county boards of elections could detect?
They'd never see it.
Mr. Would you answer that question once again?
They would never see it.
So how would such a program, a secret program that fixes the election, how could it be detected?
You would have to view it either in the source code, or you'd have to have a receipt and then count the hard paper against the actual vote total. Other than that, you won't see it.
All right, Mr. Curtis, if you had been asked, you or others with your professional expertise had been asked to design a protective program that would protect the Ohio elections from against such software to fix the election, could you have done so?
If we've been asked to make a program that can fix the election, sure, anybody can do it.
No, could you have designed a program or a procedure or a protocol that would have protected Ohio against this kind of rigging?
No, you have to look at the source code. You have to get probably programmers from both or all parties to look at the source code and determine if there's anything in there that shouldn't be there. I mean, it's a simple program. You're adding 1 to a person's total. It's 100 lines of code tops.
All right. Are you aware of whether there was any protective action in Ohio against this kind of vote rigging through software?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
You were not asked to assist in the development of any protective system, is that correct?
No, I was not.
In Europe, have you reviewed at all the election results in Ohio?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Given the availability of such vote rigging software and the testimony that has been given under oath of substantial statistical anomalies and gross differences between exit polling data and the actual tabulated results, do you have an opinion whether or not the Ohio election, presidential election, was hacked?
Yes, I would say it was. I mean, if you have exit polling data that is significantly off from the vote, then it's probably hacked.
And your testimony is under oath,
Yes, sir.
and the testimony you've given is true.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Congresswoman Stephanie Capsdale. Councilwoman Waters and I have the same question.
Come back to the podium.
Who did you say you were asked to prepare?
I was asked by Tom Feeney. He's now a congressman. At that time, he was Speaker of the House of Florida, Yang Enterprises, which was the company I worked for, lobbyist, and their corporate attorney. He wore a lot of hats.
And at the time, he was the Speaker of the House of Florida. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Congressman.
You say he was the lobbyist for the voting machine company at the same time he was Speaker of the House?
I don't know what the voting machine company is. He was a lobbyist for Yang Enterprises. We had NASA contracts and
And Yang Enterprises did what? Computers?
computers.
Okay, and he was your lobbyist, your
He was
company.
the lobbyist for that company,
And
yes.
he asked you to design a code to rig an election
Yes.
while he was Speaker of the Florida House.
Yes.
This was during or previous to the 2000 election?
Yes. October into September.
And did he ever express why he wanted a code to rig an election?
No, I immediately assumed that they were trying to keep you guys from cheating them. So, so I wrote up the documentation of what you would look for in the source code, how you would make sure that you didn't get, taken advantage of, make sure that all voting machines had receipts, because that way you could back count the ones that looked a little funny. And I handed it in.
By receipts, you mean a paper trail?
Yes, paper trail. And I handed that in to Mrs. Yang and said, here's your report, here's your program. And she said, you don't understand, we need to hide the fraud in the source code.
Hide the fraud, not reveal the fraud.
Not reveal the fraud, because it's needed to control the vote in South Florida, was what she said.
That's what she said.
That's
To your knowledge, was this used?
I have no idea. I was ready to leave, so I retired and left the company.
Your testimony a moment ago, I think you said just before you left, in answer to Congresswoman Tubbs Jones' question. Would you just repeat what you said in terms of the exit polls?
Oh, the exit polls should not be significantly different than the vote.
And if they were, you would conclude what?
I would conclude someone's playing with the vote.
Not with the exit polls?
That's possible too.
Okay, I was going to ask why
something is definitely skewed.
something is skewed in one or the other above.
Right. To select which one, you'd have to see where the problem is.
Let me ask you one further question. Assuming for the moment that such software, that's what you call it, such software to rig a vote was used in one or more machines in Ohio or in Florida, could you today detect that if you looked at the source code?
If you could get the machines and they have not been patched yet, I mean, once they get in and touch them, anything can happen. You can also set timers to do that, but then you see the timers. Then you'd have to take those machines, decompile them, which I couldn't do, but possibly a Microsoft and MIT something could do. You might be able to see it.
You might.
Not necessarily. Depends on how good they are at destroying what they had.
Destroying what they had by tampering with the machine afterwards, or by programming a destroyed instruction in the first place?
Right, because since you didn't...
Either or both?
Either or both. You didn't actually see what's in there, so you don't know if the code is running in a single executable or running in various modules. If it's running in modules, you can make the code actually eat itself.
Let me ask you one further question. I've been told that people who assume that lots of the election results, or that a large fraction of the election result in any state may have been affected by deliberate fraud in the computer, are paranoid, because in order to do that, you have to have access to thousands of machines, and that would be readily detectable. To what extent is that true?
It depends on the technology you use. If you did a central tabulation machine that fed in, all you'd have to do is set a flag. You set a flag, the central tabulation machine would then flip your vote.
So if you So one person putting in bad code in a central tabulation machine could affect thousands and thousands or tens of thousands of votes.
Right, and you could activate either automatically, or you could make it so that there's code existing on like an electronic machine that feeds it, where you would punch it in, it would set the flag, the server would see the flag, and then...
And if you had a recount, and there were no paper trail, would that be, assuming that had happened, would that be revealable by seeing a discrepancy between what the central tabulator showed and what the individual machines, which had not been tampered with, showed?
Not if I wrote it.
Why not? In other words,
I would make it match.
You could work back from the tabulator to the individual machines, so the tabulator would tell the machines to switch their results?
Yes, it talks both ways. You can flip it to whatever you need.
And they actually do talk to each other, the machines
as long
and
as
the
it's
tabulator.
hooked up, as long as it's networked together, they can talk to each other.
So in other words, there is absolutely no assurance whatsoever on anything with regard to these machines.
Absolutely none, unless you look at the source code and make sure it's safe before it goes out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman Mathers. I know that Congresswoman Waters has a question, and then Senator Miller, and then Congresswoman Stephanie Tubbs Jones.
This will only take a moment if you would come back to the...
I'm new at this.
As you know, there has been a lot of discussion about, I think it was Diebold Company, their relationship to the president and the administration, and supposedly comments about helping to ensure that the president was reelected. In your world, in your environment, have you heard any of this kind of discussion? Do you know people who work for Diebold? Do you have any sense of any actions that may have been taken?
I don't know anything about that at all.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Senator Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sir, I suspect people will attack you in terms of your credibility. Could you restate once again your credentials?
I'm a programmer. I worked for NASA, worked for ExxonMobil, worked for Florida Department of Transportation, and other elements of my story, because this company, well, let's get into it. Why not? This company also, they have NASA contracts, and they were basically downloading tons of information, I mean gigabytes worth, and handing off to this little Chinese guy named Henry Nee, and it didn't seem right, and he was hacking things, and I wrote a program for DOT that allowed contractors to send their information into DOT, and he was kind of the quality assurance guy for software. He put a wiretapping module in the program that went out to the contractors so that it actually sent everything they sent back to Yang. So I reported all this, and just last March, I think, he was arrested for attempting to send anti-tank missile chips to the capital of Communist China. So, if that's correct, this is such a small thing. Of course, I think he only got a $100 fine. And no time.
Thank you. Congresswoman Stephanie Tubbs Jones.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are now going to back to the public testimony, and
it is enough that the people know there was an election. The people who cast the votes decide nothing. The people who count the votes decide everything. Joseph Stalin. Allegedly, one thing in U.S. history is consistent throughout every single election cycle: allegations of voter fraud. These allegations, however, are not the ramblings of a kook with tinfoil wrapped around his head. They are substantiated and reach as high as the Supreme Court. Don't believe it? Ask Al Gore and George W. Bush. You can also ask the researchers over at Sillins, Incorporated, who just put out a short video showing how anyone can hack a voting machine with a $30 piece of hardware. If you think that the ruling class would leave it up to the voters to decide who gets elected, you should think again. Every single candidate who actually challenges the status quo becomes a target. This year is one of the worst years ever for voter fraud, as it's been captured on video multiple times. In February, Hillary Clinton declared herself the winner of the Democratic Party in the much-anticipated Iowa caucuses. Immediately after the victory, Clinton went on CNN to bask in her counterfeit fame. "I am so thrilled," Clinton told Wolf Blitzer in an interview Tuesday afternoon. "My luck was not that good last time around, and it was wonderful to win the caucus, to have that experience. However, fraud was so rampant that a C-SPAN video caught it." Clinton's victory would have nothing to do with luck, and her premature declaration of the razor-thin tie was no mistake. When campaign minions aren't fudging the physical vote count, computers, tasked with tallying the vote, are susceptible to hacking. In 2006, the documentary Hacking Democracy exposed Diebold and their role in rigging elections with their electronic voting machines. Now, a group of researchers at Cylance, Incorporated, a next-generation cybersecurity company, has made a damning video showing how to compromise a COPWATCH Edge MK1 voting machine. According to the researchers, the video shows how easy it is for a third party to remove and replace internal flash memory cards, directly manipulate the voting tallies in memory, and cause a vote for one candidate to be credited to another by altering elements of the device's display. Additionally, the video demonstrates how vote tallies can be manipulated on both the public counter and the protective counter, which was designed to act as a redundant verification system to ensure results are valid. While similar methods of exploit have been proposed on a theoretical basis by other researchers, Cylance is the first to successfully demonstrate an exploit for the vulnerabilities in a real-world scenario. Like true professionals, Cylance also provides a short-term solution to mitigating these risks in the 2016 election. Increased supervision/monitoring of physical access to electronic voting machines, especially as it pertains to any interfaces or ports except for the voter activation card slot, typically found on the front closing parenthesis. Frequent verification of hardware or software errors, such as those displayed on operator screens. For example, the LCD on the back of a COPWATCH voting machine closing parenthesis, monitoring and verification of tamper-proof and/or tamper-evident seals, typically used to prevent or at least indicate tampering surrounding the devices, ports, latches, etc. In the long term, Cylance recommends phasing out and replacing deprecated, insecure machines, namely those without robust, hardware-based firmware and data verification mechanisms is recommended. Also, additional due diligence of polling place volunteers, workers, and officers may help mitigate possible collusion for tampering by these groups. Like Hacking Democracy Anxi-Clance, exposing election fraud is nothing new. Clinton Eugene Clint Curtis is an American attorney, computer programmer and ex-employee of NASA and ExxonMobil, who also exposed election hacking. He is notable chiefly for making a series of whistleblower allegations about his former employer and about Republican Congressman Tom Feeney, including an allegation that in 2000, Feeney and Yang Enterprises requested Curtis's assistance in a scheme to steal votes by inserting fraudulent code into touchscreen voting systems. Curtis is seen in the video below testifying under oath in front of the U.S. House Judiciary members in Ohio. He tells the members how he was hired by Congressman Tom Feeney in 2000 to build a prototype software package that would secretly rig an election to sway the result 51/49 to a specified side. After watching the video, you'll know why true change is hard to come by. Read more at http://thefreethoughtproject.com/researchers-showed-world-hack-voting/#IXBXCHBOYO 3.99